Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. I think if our story of Elijah today were the only story of him we had, then we wouldn't think very highly of Elijah. And maybe in the midst of these 2 weeks of putting all the Elijah story together, that might be a good thing for us to see too, because it tells us that even these great people of God were human, and like us, weren't perfect all the time. The story of Ahaziah shows Elijah to be dismissive and demanding of respect, and it's not the picture of him we normally have. Or maybe even more deeply, it shows that Elijah didn't concern himself with those who sought after other gods. After Ahab died, there was a king in Samaria named Ahaziah. Samaria was a region in Israel, but few self-respecting Jews would go into that territory. The Samaritans were Jews who had intermarried with local Canaanite people, so the pure Jews considered them at best half-breeds, and as people who had fallen from God's way. Nevertheless, they were related and connected to the Jews. Anyway, Ahaziah was of Samaria, and one day he fell through the lattice surrounding his upper chamber, and he was injured rather severely. So he sent some messengers to ask the local priest of Baal if he was going to recover from the injury or not. Well, as the messengers went, they met Elijah, who sent them back with his own message. "Tell Ahaziah from me, is it because there is no God in Israel that you are asking Baal? Since you did this, you will not leave the bed you lie in, but will surely die." When the messengers returned and gave this message to Ahaziah, he asked, "What was the man who told you this like?" They said, "He was a hairy man with a leather belt around his waist." And Ahaziah knew it was Elijah. So he sent a captain with his 50 soldiers to bring Elijah to him. He found Elijah sitting on top of a hill, and when the captain demanded that he come with him to see Ahaziah, and Elijah called down fire from heaven that consumed the captain and all 50 of his men. So Ahaziah sends another captain with his 50 soldiers, and the same thing happens to them. Fire is called down and consumes them. By now we are thinking, what did these 100 soldiers do wrong? Finally, Ahaziah sends a third captain with his 50 soldiers, and he must have been shaking in his sandals over what had happened to those who went before him. However, he approached Elijah differently. Instead of demanding Elijah to come, he pleaded with Elijah to spare his life and the lives of his soldiers who had been sent on this mission. And sure enough, God told Elijah to go with him, and they went to see Ahaziah. Yet even though Elijah went this time, that didn't mean the message changed. He saw Ahaziah and said, "Because you inquired of Baal and not of the living God, you will not leave this bed and will surely die." And that's exactly what happened. It's not a pretty story. And I guess the point might be that it's not a pretty story anytime we turn to other gods. So often we turn to our wealth for security, or find our lives ruled by politics, or status, or popularity, and any number of other things that take the place of God in our lives. The lesson of Ahaziah points to the disastrous outcomes of doing that. We are called to be faithful to God and to God alone. These other false gods have a way of sneaking up on us, and we suddenly find ourselves devoted to them without even realizing it. May God help us so that our eyes and our hearts are turned only and always to God. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.